If you've seen my Pretty Pink Posh Valentine release video, you know how much I love the Sweet Note die set and how you can use it with so many other different stamps and dies. Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and in that release video I shared that there were a couple of stamp sets and die sets that I hadn't been able to use, that I just ran out of time for. Well, I'm going to combine them today with that Sweet Note dies to make a ton of either little Valentines, lunchbox notes, or little ways to give cash to your Valentines. So let's jump in and get started making some of these Sweet Note dies cards. I'm going to start with the Potted Roses stamp set, which was one of the stamp sets I didn't have time for in that first release video. I did stamp it out, but I didn't have time to color it or use it on a card. And I'm also going to use the Heart Critters stamps. These are so cute. I'm using alcohol ink friendly ink and cardstock because I'm going to use some alcohol ink markers to color these in. So once I've stamped them all out, I am going to heat set them a little bit. Sometimes I like to stamp the day before and then color the next day. If you're having trouble with smearing, that might help, or heat setting. So if you heat set and you still have problems, then you might try stamping the day before. I'm using my Ohuhu markers. These are my new favorite alcohol ink markers because they have both a brush tip and a fine tip. So on these tiny little roses where the petals are super small, I'm using the fine tip. And I'm just using two colors just to give a little bit of depth and dimension to those. And I'm going to use two colors on the leaves. I'm going to use the brush tip for the pot. And my favorite way to do the shading, as always, is to keep the highlight in the center. So the brightest part in the center so that I can always remember where I need to add some darkness on the sides and at the bottom. Okay, for the larger roses, you could use the brush tip or the fine tip, whatever works for you. I'm going to do the same thing with the Heart Critters. I'm going to use the same markers. These guys are a little bit bigger, so you can get some real fun blending going on with them. So you can definitely use the brush tips with them. I used the Pentel Sparkle Pen in gold to fill in the keys and the lock. So it really makes a bright metallic sparkly gold color, and you can either use it to draw lines, which is what I did around the keys, or to color in a whole area, which I did for the lock, and it worked really well for both of them. I really like these Pentel pens. I use the white gel pen a lot, and the sparkle pens are also really great. I'm going to hold all the dies in place with pixie tape and cut everything out. So I have lots of things to work with here, some roses and some critters. I'm going to cut some cardstock in half. So it's 8.5 by 11, right in half. And then I'm going to use the Sweet Notes dies from Pretty Pink Posh to cut out both envelopes, which is this part. I have 4 envelopes, and then 4 different colors of the square stitch die, which also comes in the Sweet Notes die. That's the little card that goes inside the envelope. I'm going to reinforce the score lines. What I found works best is to go backwards first. I'm not sure why, but for me, this really worked best. The first time I just did forwards first, and I ended up folding on the stitched or dotted line there instead of on the score line. But when I went backwards first and then went forwards, I got a nice crisp score line using my bone folder, and I didn't have any problems on where it was folding. And then you can see that little top flap just goes into that little bottom area and keeps it closed that way, locks it closed. So now I'm going to decorate this first card here. I'm going to use the panda and pop that little panda up. I have a little teeny tiny heart, and then I'm going to actually adhere this inside the envelope. So this is not one where the card is loose, and then I'll just put a couple of these die cuts on the outside. I decided I needed a sentiment, so I stamped this Hugs sentiment, which is a beautiful script on the Heart Critters stamp set, and it actually has a die to cut it out. For this next mini card, I'm going to use the little koala. I have a pink inner card that I've cut out, and I have the little lock that I colored in with the gold metallic pen. So for each card, I'm just using a bunch of these different die cuts. Once you have everything colored in and die cut out, these little mini note cards come together really easily. These would be great to leave on someone's desk, to pop inside a child's lunchbox, or even for a teen. And I'll show you what I'm going to do for my teenagers with these little note cards later. I have a couple of these sentiments from several of the different stamp sets. I'm going to link to all of the release down below so you can check everything out. And this time I am going to adhere the koala card on the outside of the envelope because I'm going to place something on the inside. So you can use this card on the inside. It also fits perfectly on the outside as a decoration. And then once I have the little envelope closed up, I'm going to add a little, it's like a box of chocolates tied with a ribbon on the outside. And that is just such an easy way to put this card together. I'm going to take 20 bucks and I am going to just put a tiny little bit of tape runner, just a spot of it on the back of that $20 so that I can adhere it inside this little mini note card so that it will stay inside. And that's what I'm going to give my teenagers for Valentine's Day because all they want is cash these days. So for the next little mini card using the Sweet Notes die, I am going to use the Valentine Hearts stencil from this last release, from the Valentine release. So I'm going to stencil and I'm going to hold it in place with some pixie tape, which is also masking off other parts of the card. I'm just putting the hearts on the back of the envelope. So there's that big square on the back of the envelope. And I'm going to use some pink ink for those hearts and just brush that on. And then I'll layer the little conversation words on top of it. So this stencil set, you can do some little lines or dots, and they have these little conversation words. You can combine them, you can use them separately, however you want. I'm going to use a little bit of purple ink to layer those little tiny sentiments over the hearts. And again, I've masked off the top and bottom of the envelope with some pixie tape. So once I have all of that inked up, I'm going to remove the pixie tape and then I'm going to place it back down. I'm going to ink the flap of the envelope with the purple ink, and I love the way that looks masked off. And then I'm going to ink the other part of the envelope with pink ink. So I have the pink and purple, and then I have the little stenciled hearts, just for a totally different idea or look on these mini cards. Now, of course, this is going to take a little bit longer than just pasting on some die cuts, but I really wanted to use it. Turns out I did the stenciling upside down. I really thought about it and I still did it upside down. So I die cut one of those little stitch squares and just redid the stenciling on the stitch square. So remember that stitched square that comes with the die set fits inside the envelope or fits right on the back of the envelope. I'm gonna put some foam tape on it and not adhere it sideways, hopefully, and then lay it down on the back of the envelope. So you can see a little bit of the upside down behind it, but I kind of like the way that looks. So now I have it in the right direction and you can read all the words. And then I put some sentiments and a couple of die cuts on the other side. So you can definitely put this inside the MISTI and stamp on it after you've die cut it, which makes it really easy because then you can figure out where you want your sentiments to go on the flap or on the other side. I'm going to use the little tiger on this side and I have Be My Valentine on the other side. And then I'm going to pop up one of the little hearts with the arrows. So lots of fun little die cuts to play with. I always say that playing with little die cuts like this is like playing with color forms. So if you liked color forms when you were little, this is the kind of thing that you will have so much fun making all these little cards. And they really do come together quickly once you have all the elements together. So do your die cutting, all your coloring and stamping, and these cards will come together quickly. For this other card, I'm going to adhere the envelope right on an A2 card. So I figured sometimes you don't want a little mini card. You want an actual A2 card, but you can still use this little Sweet Notes die as an interactive element on your A2 card. So I adhered the back of the envelope to the A2 card. I'm using the foil plate that says love and then the die to cut it out at the top. And then I'm going to cut out the sending from the little potted roses die. It also has a die to cut out the sending sentiment. That's what I love so much, when you have these really beautiful script sentiments and you can cut them out, you can pop them up. And then I put all of those little potted roses all over the envelope and inside in the little card with the interactive element to it. I mentioned before, but this is a super versatile set that can be used beyond Valentine's Day. Tuck it into an Easter basket, or add it to a Christmas stocking, or on the top of a birthday present. I'd love to hear how you would use this set either for Valentine's Day or beyond. Let me know in the comments below. As always, I want to thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me today. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again soon. So let's get super fast. I don't think there's any